Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, June 18th, Wednesday morning edition. This Wednesday, we've got Sniper J in the booth to talk college basketball, projecting guys up to potential number one picks, who could be the next surprising rising junior, senior, potentially. Good morning, Sniper. How are you?
I'm doing well this fine morning. How are you doing, Mr. Marsh?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We've got another day before a potential championship is decided, which means we don't need to talk too much SWBA finals. Let's talk potential future finalists. One day after, I guess 2 days after Jalen Williams goes for 40 points, in maybe one of the more impressive runs of a star in recent seasons in the SWBA. Jalen Williams was a three-star recruit on his way to Santa Clara. He spent 3 seasons at Santa Clara. The first two of which not really anything all that impressive before really having a great junior year that got him to be the number 12 pick in the draft. And now in his third season, he's making it a conversation. I don't know if he's quite there, but he's making it a conversation to be the SWBA finalist or finals MVP. So I'm curious, Sniper, our resident scouting expert, is there a guy right now in college basketball, freshman, sophomore, who's not a bona fide, he's definitely going to be a lottery guy, or he might not be on a ton of radars? Is there a guy that could be the next J-Dub?
Yeah, there's a lot to choose from, but one guy that really sticks out to me is Mr. Tyshawn Penn from Princeton. And the reason I say that is because this season alone, he averaged 15.9 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists, and he hasn't come close to playing his best basketball. He's only a sophomore. He's still learning and growing as a player. And I think once he matures through the next couple of years of SimWorld U basketball, and as he head into the SWBA draft process, now we're looking at a completely different player who's able to make an impact on a team right away, just like J Dub in the first 3 to 4 years of his rookie contract.
So what does a guy like that need to do to become a Jalen Williams? Because I mean, we're going to talk number one pick next season. We're going to talk early
Mhm.
favorites for that coming up next. But those are guys that we know. I mean, the short list is kind of long, but there's still a short list of guys that we expect to be in the top five. So what does a guy like
Mhm.
Tyshawn Penn, who is currently draft eligible, he's not leaving. What does a guy like that have to do to actually put himself in a position to be drafted and rise up the list? What's missing from his game? What needs to be added?
That's a fantastic question. We all know that he is a dynamic scorer. I think some weaknesses or some key things to work on in the offseason is strength, athleticism, and IQ. And the reason I say strength is because sometimes when you watch him play, he gets knocked off the ball. He's a guard, but he's a little loose. He's kind of on the leaner side. So I think if you add some strength and balance to his game, that will make him a better presence on the offense and defensive end. And IQ, it's nothing like sitting down in the film room, watching yourself, watching how teams play you, and learning the game, not on the court, but off the court. Like really just using your mind to learn the game. And I think that's something that the Princeton coaching staff can help him with, breaking down film of himself, because that's what you're going to have to do at the next level. So if he gets started now, he will have a head start of everybody else in 2 to 3 years or even 1 year that is now having to watch film for the first time and diagnose themselves in front of other people that they ain't never done before. I think that's how he gets there.
Okay, can I throw a name at you? One guy that I
Sure.
think, and in the similar vein, sophomore. He's on the radar, and I think Jalen Williams was starting to get on the radar because I think that's a big caveat for this, right? It's not going to be out of nowhere a guy goes from obscurity to relevance, and Jalen Williams after his second year um, at Santa Clara started to look like maybe a guy that could be a draft pick. How about Fareed Redmond? And a lot of Fareed Redmond's game, I think, mirrors a lot of what Jalen Williams brings to the table. 6'7" wing, just like Jalen Williams, and I think I was a little tunnel visioned when I was trying to find a guy to find another wing. This isn't just a find me a wing who had a good sophomore or freshman year but could be better. Like, it's just a guy, right? But Fareed Redmond, 6'7", lengthy defender,
Right.
really, really good on both ends. Sophomore year averaged 15.8 points per game, shot 35% from deep. Very similar numbers, and I know when we were kind of talking about this, you threw out Suno Chapa. I think Suno Chapa maybe is just a little bit more developed as a freshman than Fareed
Hmm.
Redmond was as a freshman. Redmond had some good moments, but I feel like Redmond looks like a guy, especially with a class that's questionable. He's a guy that I would feel pretty confident slotting in. He's going to be a junior, so he's coming. He's probably coming out next season. Slots in as a guy that maybe could be a really good number two scorer, can be a wing defender. He's got the ability to shoot the ball well from deep. He didn't hit a ton, but I think there's, he trends in the direction of a guy that maybe could be a 38% three-point shooter, which you really need at the next level. Athletic to get down court, can get into the paint. He's a good playmaker, 2 assists per game. I feel like Fareed Redmond is a guy that might check a lot of boxes especially in a league that says we need as many lengthy wing defenders as we could possibly get.
100%. And I think that last part you said is the key to him becoming or get on that route to being the next J Dub. Lengthy defender. Yes, his offense is gonna come, but the SWBA, they're not worried about offense. It's about athleticism and being able to defend. If he does well this year in all the offense categories, that's great. That's just a plus. But if he does his job on the defense end and shows off his athleticism, I think you have a phenomenal point in him being almost a side by side person with J Dub.
And let me throw one more name. We don't have to keep just throwing out names of guys, but I think a guy that kind of really struggled because of who was in front of him, Sky Durant, 6'9", really good shooter. Shot the ball 35.8% from deep. He is a good shooter. He didn't get a lot of playing time. 13 minutes per game, scored 4 points. I mean, you want to talk about a Jalen Williams potential. That's a guy, as a freshman, did not get the run that maybe many would have expected from him. Similar to Jalen Williams, I think he averaged like 7 points per game as a freshman at Santa Clara. But Sky Durant has a lot of those pieces that you look at and say, man, if this kid develops, and he looked like that a lot in his prep age, 6'9" shooter is tough to find and easy to find a spot on a starting five at the next level.
I wouldn't say it's the easiest at the starting five, but yes, it's hard
It's
to come
easier, I
by.
guess.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I also think we're speaking in speculation right now. For someone that's that young, like Mr. Durant is, he has to just trust the process and trust his strength and conditioning coach, trust his coaches, and actually develop and not get too ahead of his time and think he is what he's not or what he isn't or what he is. He really has to, fill out his body and his role on the team before we start seeing, okay, yeah, maybe he is what we think he could be in the future, if that makes sense, Marsh.
Yeah, 100%. He's 176 pounds. He's not a big guy, and it's going to be tough
Yes.
to go from not playing at all as a freshman to playing enough as a sophomore that warrants draft consideration at the next level. Let's go draft consideration next season. Unlike this season, now that Cooper Flag is reclassified and as well as Dylan Harper, it seems like our number 1 and 2 is pretty much set. Next season feels very much wide open, and it almost feels, Sniper, like next season's number 1, the battle for it and the picks that come after it. I might wager that next season's top 5 is a little bit better than this year's. Who right now, all the signs are pointing to some combination of D'Angelo Jordan, Justin Bell, Arthur Lattimore, Nas Hall as the potential number 1 overall pick. In your opinion, who has the clearest path to being the number 1 pick? Is it one of those 4 guys, or is it someone else we're not mentioning right now?
Uh, in my opinion, it is Justin Bell. He has the clear way to the number 1 pick just based off of what he's done and SimWorld you up to this point. And yes, he may be going back to school, but he's only going back to school to win at this point. Everybody knows he is ready for the SWBA. He has the body, he has athleticism, he has the scoring ability. Yes, there are things that he's going to struggle at the next level, but as far as potential, Justin Bell has that number one pick type potential.
I agree. Justin Bell, you look at his body of work, and he's a little bit smaller than both D'Angelo Jordan and Arthur Lattimore, who D'Angelo Jordan I feel like we see as this 3-4, like as a 3 at the next level. I think he's more of a 4, very Jabari Smith like in my opinion. He's not really. I feel like he should be a better 3-point shooter than he led on as a freshman. He just shot 32%, but his scoring ability is fantastic. I actually think he comps a lot more to an Arthur Lattimore, who's more of a bona fide 4. Maybe he's a small ball 5. I think personally that the conversation is down to Justin Bell and Nas Hall, because Justin Bell can play any of the 2 through the 4. Talented shooter. We mentioned this when we were talking about Free Rebin. Rangy defender. Can defend 1 through 4. He's quick on his feet. And I think Nas Hall is right next to him. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people end up looking at the two of them and say, well, we get a guy that's going to be a sophomore, so there's a ton of growth potential with that. But Nas Hall, 17.2 point per game score, 3.5 assists, shot 35% from the floor last year. He is at 6'6", rangy, feisty defender. Justin Bell, 6'7", 16.5 points per game, 2.5 assists, shot 36. I feel like there's a lot of overlap between the two of them. Looking for a guy that can play any of the two. I don't think Nas Hall can play up to the 4, which could be the deciding factor for a team that's sitting there saying, we want as much diversity as we can possibly get, so as much optionality as we can get. Justin Bell delivers that in a way that I don't know that any of the other 3 prospects who are currently expected to be. We are a long way from next season's draft, but currently expected to be the number 1 pick next season.
100%. And if I may add something, Marsh, and this is something I just thought about on the spot.
Ooh,
So
freshman.
let's think about it like this, right? We expect these guys to do the exact same numbers they did this season. If not, they fall off. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I think whoever has the better defensive season is going to see that number 1 pick. And the reason I say that is because, just like you just said, they're looking for a guy who gives them the most upside on both sides of the ball. So if Justin Bell could really flip a switch here, he's an okay defender. We've seen him get did in a couple times. He's an okay defender. If he could flip the switch and become a good defender or a elite defender, I think he has potential to jump to elite defender. I think there's no question he's the number 1 pick. But if he stays the defender he is now, there will be some doubt and people will question if he's the number 1 pick.
You have to be versatile, and I think that you see that in the SWBA finals right now, right? Like, you can't be one-dimensional. There's like the reason the Thunder are so much were heavily favored and now are 1 win away, and it's a surprise that it's gone to a 6th game, is because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can play both ends of the floor. Maybe he's not an elite defender. I'm sure that if he was playing next to a, let's call it an Anthony Edwards, where he wasn't responsible for being the number 1 guy, SGA is a higher effort defender because he's perfectly serviceable as it is now, and he's really good at honestly defending in the paint against bigger guys. Jalen Williams can go both ways. Alex Caruso can defend on the other end. Lou Dort, a ferocious defender. Alex Caruso coming off the bench. And then you go to the other side, the guys that are in rotation. It's not guys, Halliburton, Nembhard, McConnell, Neesmith, Mathurin, Toppin. None of those guys do you look at and be like, man, I really hope they don't target him on the defensive end. Every single rotation player in the finals can play 2 ways. They're varying degrees of how good they are on the second side, but they are all serviceable at the absolute least as a defender. I like your take. If Justin Bell has a great season and you add on the defensive end, you add in his offensive ceiling, which I think is exceptionally high, I think there's a real pathway that somebody sits there at number 1 and says, we're not only excited about this, we are excited beyond words. We are stoked. We have the face of our franchise for the next 10, 15 years if all things go according to plan.
That's right. 100%.
All right, so speaking of going to plan, the plan as it sits here currently, Cooper Flack, pencil him in, he's looking for a house in Dallas. Dylan Harper, pencil him in, he's looking for a house in San Antonio. It appears that Jalen Snow is penciling himself in as the number 3 pick. According to odds, he's got the best odds to be the number 3 pick in the draft. Is that the right move? Because I'll tell you what, Sniper, the more I've never been shy of my infatuation with Jalen Snow, but I think Jalen Snow as the number 3 pick makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense for the Sixers, but forget about the Sixers. I do think Jalen Snow is the third best player, and if I had him on my roster, I am excited beyond words as well for what he could bring as the next level. Do you feel the same, or do you feel otherwise?
I feel otherwise.
You feel
I
otherwise?
don't think.
Okay.
No, 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 no. Jalen Snow is a fantastic basketball player. Like what you can't take what he's done away from him. He's a terrific scorer. He scores in a whole bunch of ways. But there's another guy in the name of Kenji Cross that it's just undeniable. His quickness, his showmanship. He's gonna sell tickets. I don't know if Jalen Snow has this showmanship that Cooper Kenji Cross has. That's why I would lean towards Kenji Cross being the third best player in this draft.
So you're sitting there with Philadelphia, and you're taking Cooper Kingy Cross or Kingy Cross. I'm still figuring out who's right and who's wrong on how you pronounce the dang name, but that's who you're taking right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying that's the wrong pick. What I would say is I don't know that there's a huge difference between the two of them, right? Like the shot creation, the ball handling, that's CKC, but the jump shooting, the athleticism, that's more in the Jalen Snow department. I guess my point is, if I'm getting either of those two guys, I'm feeling awesome because I'm sitting here saying I've got the face of a franchise at the guard position. To me, maybe the deciding factor is Jalen Snow, who's went through the combine, measured in at 6'6", 201 pounds. Cooper Kingy Cross measured in at 6'3". Now you can be 6'3" and be impactful, but I feel like Jalen Snow gives you a little bit more. You talked about the optionality, right, with Justin Bell. Jalen Snow feels to me like a little bit more of an optionality with a similar ceiling as CKC.
Dude, I agree with you 100%, but I don't think of just the players alone. I think of what's going to happen with the organization, and
So
I have to
okay.
think that they're not going to be able to pay someone who is about 6'3", 6'4", that's really good, and that's going to want to join a team in a bigger market and try to win a real champion. That's where they fill in Mr. Kenji Cross at. That's just my opinion. I don't know more.
So hold on, you're saying that you would prefer a 6'3" guy?
To Phil, yes, I think the future says that Philly is going to lose a guy that's very similar to Kenji Cross before they lose a guy that's similar to Snow.
So who are they going to lose? You think like Tyrese Maxey is out the door in Philly,
That's
so
right.
they need to
That's
fill?
right.
Really?
He's out of it. Yes, I think Tyrese Maxey is done with the situation. He wants more money and he wants to go to a team that really wants to compete for a championship. And I think him and his team is going to make that quite clear to the organization.
Now maybe I've missed this. Are you reporting? I guess not reporting. Are you
No,
speculating this? There's no reporting that I'm
speculation.
completely missing.
No, no, no. This is pure speculation.
Okay.
Pure speculation. I just have to think he's still young.
Yeah.
And young people, they move and they want to go to a place where they feel valued. And I think he feels valued at Philly. Philly loves him. But he also wants to win. And I don't think he's getting that fulfillment in Philadelphia. And that's why I think a Kenji Cross could come in and fill that notable gap that they're going to have once 2 years. Maybe I wouldn't give it past 3 years until Mr. Maxey is out of there.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you draft Cooper Kingy Cross, your backcourt situation is now CKC, who's 6'3". I'm looking up their roster. Tyrese Maxey, who's 6'2", and Jared McCain, who's 6'3". I would agree with you that if Cooper Kingy Cross is their pick at number 3, that is a roster that you're saying, I don't know how we play our 3 guards who are all 6'3" and smaller together, because you can make the case of your. I don't think you can make the case. I think this might be a stretch with Jared McCain as the number 4 in this, but maybe not with the rest of this roster. The top 4 guys on that roster, 2 of them are 6'3" and smaller. It's Tyrese Maxey and it's Jared McCain, in my opinion. I think that says a lot about the skill set of this roster. I mean, I guess who was it? Who went nuts for them? Was it Quentin Grimes, who had a huge little run? Oh, by the way, also 6'4". Um, I would find it hard to believe that this is a roster that can contend for winning basketball if they draft Cooper Kingy Cross. If they draft Jalen Snow, to me that says this is a team that thinks they've got a chance to win now. Whether that's delusion or not, because Joel Embiid is unable to stay healthy. That's not what I'm debating. I think it would be the belief, right or wrong, that they think they can compete now. That's why you get Jalen Snow.
A lot of speculation, a lot of what ifs, and a lot of. I love it. I love it. I'm interested to see what's gonna happen on draft night. Honestly,
Me too. Mostly so we can finally get an idea of what these two rosters are going to look like. Because whatever happens afterwards, I mean, I forget what the final. I mean, there's been so much, focus on the draft. So the draft order as it sits right now, 4 is Charlotte. Who look, if Jalen Snow falls to them, they'd be stoked. Utah at 5, Washington at 6, the Pelicans at 7. And I feel like at that 5 spot, Jamison Johnson off the board, Lamarian Sherwood off the board, Jalen Snow, CKC. I guess Trey Turner. So you're going like 7, 8 deep. It feels like that's the line in the sand for this draft. Is right there. All right, Sniper. I appreciate you taking the time and jumping on with us here on a Wednesday morning. We'll talk to you again next week, where we will be ever so bit closer. I think the draft's on the 26th, I believe. Am I correct in that date? Yeah, no, excuse me, the 25th. So we'll have you on, and we will be speculating on what's going to happen on draft night on June 25th in the SWBA, which I cannot wait for, and look forward to having you on to talk about it. Sniper, appreciate you joining us. I appreciate everyone tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.